Hi, it's Emma here from Wedding Biz Bootcamp and welcome to today's 10-minute masterclass. We are talking all about how you can deal with the first meeting that you have with your potential new bride and groom, that consultation meeting. I'm going to share with you 10 tips that are really going to help you to convert that meeting, to make the bride and groom love you, and also to help you feel relaxed and really stress-free about the meeting. So let's get started. Tip number 1, and probably one of the most important tips I've got for you, is to be yourself. Don't try and be something that you're not. You have to let your personality shine. You have to let you come out in your meeting. You want to be professional, but you need to show your enthusiasm and the love for what you do. And that personal connection is really important. If you are in the wedding field of, let's say you're a wedding planner or you're a photographer, you're somebody that is really key to them on their wedding day. That personal connection is even more important because you need to feel comfortable with them. They need to feel comfortable with you. And if you have that first consultation meeting and you try and kind of be somebody that you're not, it will show and it will come through, and it will just mean that the rest of the work that you do is just a little bit too difficult, and it doesn't need to be that way. You know, this is your business. You can choose who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. And you may find that that personal connection just doesn't strike up. You may find that, you know, you just don't connect with that bride and groom. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that that bride and groom aren't the right one for you. And you will get a sense for that. But you have to be yourself. Do not try and be something that you're not, because your brides and grooms won't warm to it. And when you are genuinely yourself, your enthusiasm comes through, your passion, you know, you get excited about things. And that is what a bride and groom want. They want somebody that is going to be really passionate about what they want for their wedding. And that is how you can get that across. Point number 2 is to have a rough agenda to follow. Now, I'm not saying kind of a formal printed out agenda. This is not the corporate world. But have a rough idea of what you want to get from the meeting. Not only does this help you to structure the meeting, it also helps you to feel more confident because you know roughly where you're going to get to. You know roughly what you want to achieve from the end of the meeting. The worst situation is having a consultation meeting with somebody and then you leave that meeting saying, yeah, I'll send you a quote. And actually when you get home, you're like, oh, I have no idea how to do this quote because I haven't asked the right questions. Make sure that you are, you know, asking the right things. Make sure that you have that rough agenda as to what you're going to cover off. It also helps you to manage the expectations of the bride and groom and the initial consultation. So if you start the kind of meeting, perhaps you're just meeting in a coffee shop or in a local pub somewhere, you know, somewhere that links with you, links with your branding. You we'll sit down with the couple, you know, you'll do the little introduction, you'll break the ice, you know, go and buy them a drink or whatever. And then say, right, these are the key things I think it would be great for us to talk about today. Is that okay with you? And then it means that if they have something else in their mind that they want to cover, they can tell you there and then. The worst thing is that you get to the end of the meeting and you say, oh, was that helpful? And they say, well, actually, we didn't really cover what we wanted to cover. So you manage the expectations right from the off. The third tip that I want to give you is to make sure that you are clear about what happens next. Have something ready to say so that when the couple say, so what happens next? You have that confident answer. You have a clear number of steps as to how you're going to follow up with them and how you're going to get back to them. Now, this will be different dependent upon what, you know, what service it is you're offering. It may well be that the bride and groom are the ones that need to go away and think about some things, but give them a list of what they need to consider. If it's for you to follow up with them, tell them what the next steps are. And, you know, almost talk about it as if you've got the work, you know, walk through the process that happens and say, right, from this is what will happen. If you're then happy with the quote, we will then do this, and this. To be really clear, not only does this make that question answer less uncomfortable for you, you don't want to sit there going, well, I'll send you an email. It shows your expertise, it shows your confidence, it shows that you're experienced in what you do. Now, even if this is your first ever bride and groom client that you're working with, they kind of don't need to know that. But if you have the process and the system in place, and if you're confident with it, then that confidence on its own will be enough to convince them that you're definitely the one for them. Tip number 4 is to say, don't just jump straight into talking business when you get there. Break the ice. It's like if you're meeting somebody for the first time, you don't suddenly start asking them lots of personal questions. You'll kind of, you'll talk through with them about, where they live, what they do, all of that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not saying you're going to waste time by asking, commenting on the weather and things like that, but break the ice. Ask some questions that will just get your brides and grooms into the right mind frame for the meeting. So you could ask them how they met and what the proposal was. Get them excited about the wedding, get them excited about what they're talking about. Don't go in asking lots of questions right from the off to say, right, what colours are you having, what theme are you having? I've experienced this with brides and grooms in the past. I even had a bride almost in tears because obviously she'd gone to this wedding fair and all of these wedding suppliers had asked her the same question. They'd all said, when's the big day? Where are you getting married? What colours are you having? What theme are you having? And she hadn't planned any of it. She'd literally just got engaged, and she got into this space of so much overwhelm that she just was absolutely petrified. She was like, oh my God, I've not organised and not thought about any of this stuff. Oh, I've got so much to do. She got into this really kind of panicky mindset. Like I say, she was nearly in tears about it. So you need to warm them up. Now, tip number 5 links very clearly with this. It may be that this is the first time that the couple have sat down together to talk about what they want from their wedding. And this is a really difficult one to manage. If a bride suddenly says, oh yeah, money's no object, and the groom's like, hang on a minute. If the groom says, oh yes, we're definitely having this, I don't know, fancy car or something like that, and she's like, hang on a minute, we've not talked about that. You need to almost be the mediator, and you need to be very aware of the fact that as you're asking these questions, your brides and groom may never have discussed it. So it might be that they have different answers, but just kind of, just don't let that stress you. If you've warmed them up nicely, then they'll be in the right mind frame for it. But just be very aware that this may be the first time that they've actually talked about what they want from their wedding. Tip number 6 is to say, don't shy away from the money question. It is going to be a question that your bride and groom are likely to ask. So practice your answer and think about what you can say. Now, when you get a bit flummoxed about money and when they ask about how much these things are going to cost, it has an impact psychologically on their decision, purely because when you're confident about your price and when you kind of are, you're definitive about what it is, it creates that kind of confidence with your brides and grooms as well, that you're not trying to rip them off, that you're not going, yeah, it'd be about 500 quid. You've got to be confident with it. Now, do not panic if you haven't got this price list, if you haven't got set packages that you have, if you haven't got defined charges for different things. Just say, what I will do from this meeting is I will work up a bespoke quote. I'll work up a couple of different packages based on what we've talked about, what your needs are, what your desires are, what I can provide for you. I'll give you some ideas and work up a quote. That's fine. You don't have to kind of figure out a price there and then. If the bride and groom are really, really pushy about it, then I would just say, look, I don't want to give you a price here and now because I do need to think about all of the different elements that go into it. And I want to make sure that I'm giving you the best value that I can. So don't be afraid to answer that pricing question. Have something ready to say, practice it. It sounds really silly, but practice the answer in front of a mirror or when you're driving to see the bride and groom. I practice things all of the time when, you know, I'm in the shower, or I'm driving, or I'm doing the housework or whatever. If I'm giving a webinar or doing a presentation in front of people, I will practice what I'm saying so that when I say it, it feels more natural. It just comes more naturally. You know, don't worry that you're not, you know, that you may not have that definitive price list, but just have something to say that is going to work well for you. Now, this links to tip number 7, and that is do not undersell yourself. This is your business. It isn't a hobby, so you need to make money from it. So do not undersell what you are doing. If you are too expensive for that bride and groom, then they're not the right bride and groom for you. You need to really have confidence with what you're charging, and don't be willing to just suddenly discount, because it, you know, it has an impact on the way that they feel about you, because it makes them feel as if you're trying to rip them off right from the off. If suddenly they say, well, can you discount? And you're like, oh yeah, okay, I'll knock £100 off. They're like, well, why didn't you just come in at £100 cheaper at the offset? Or we'll think about it. So just be really confident about your charges and do not undersell yourself. If you are too expensive, then they're not the right bride and groom for you. Now, the biggest resistance when it comes to brides and grooms actually paying for goods and services is that they just don't know what is actually included in it. And when you break down all of the different elements that they get and that is included in the price, be really, really clear, be really descriptive, and you will find that that price barrier reduces, that they are less concerned about price because they see all the value that they're getting from it. Tip number 8 is to be excited, but don't make the bride and groom think that you are relying on this job to survive. Now, I know that might sound a little bit dramatic, but we've all been there where you have, you know, you've been really excited about a job and you really, really, really want it, but you have to have that kind of, you know, air of exclusivity about you, because when it feels that you're more exclusive and that your diary is filling up, you will become more desirable. Don't make it feel as if this is the only job that you're going to have for the next 2 months. You know, you need to be confident. You need to make it appear that you're not relying on that particular job. So this is when it comes down to don't suddenly discount, you know, be confident about what you're offering, be really clear about what's included, and, you know, don't undersell yourself. Point number 9 is to say, go with some ideas, but don't give them everything that you've got, because if you give everything in that initial consultation, which is normally a free consultation, you know, then they won't need to hire you or to book you. So yes, go with some ideas, add the value, but don't give them everything. You know, you need to hold some things back, and this is when it comes to being really clear about what the next steps are, because then you can really set out, right, these are the things that you would get from me. You know, if you decided that this was right for you, this is what you would get from me. And you demonstrate that value, but don't give it all at the outset. Yes, you need to create that desirability. Yes, you need to add value, but don't give everything, because then there's nothing left for them to kind of book you or buy from you. And then finally, tip number 10 is to take some samples of work that you've done previously. Now, a great way of doing this is to have an iPad with some images on there. If you've got like a portfolio, make sure you take that along with you. This just gives your brides and grooms a sense of what you can do, and they will want to see some previous work. Now, if this is your first real client booking and you haven't actually got any examples of stuff that you've done, think about other things that you have done. Let's say you've done styled shoots, you've been involved in them. Take those images along. It's demonstrating your services. It's demonstrating all the goodness that you've got. If you haven't done a styled shoot, you know, make up some mood boards and say these are the kinds of things that, you know, they would expect to get from you. Have some examples of things that you can refer to, and having an iPad just flicking through the images is a really great way of doing that. You can also get some hard copy portfolios printed. There are companies such as Blurb or blurb.com, blurb.com, that do printed digital photo books, which are beautiful. They're really good quality. They've always got kind of, you know, different discounts and things like that, so, you know, check them out, they're really good. You've also got lots of photo book kind of printers that you can use. So if you have built up a portfolio and you want a physical hard copy, then get something printed and take that along with you. Give them an example of the quality that they can expect from you, the visuals that they can expect from you as well. So there are just 10 tips for that first initial consultation meeting, and I hope that that really helps you just to figure out exactly how you can make the most of it. A couple of bonus things: make sure you follow up, and, you know, don't just send one email and then forget about it. Add it into your diary to follow up with them. You've invested this time in this couple, and it might just be that you need to kind of tease them into it a little bit more. So send them some newsletters, send them some personal emails as well. You know, after the meeting, say, it was really lovely to meet with you. If you see something on Pinterest that you think that they will love, you know, share it with them and say, saw this and thought of you. Think of different touch points that you can do with your couples. If they decide not to book with you, you know, ask them the reasons why. Just say, you know, it'd be really, really useful for you just to understand, you know, why, you know, you decided to go with somebody else. If they're on the kind of cusp of whether or not to go for you, you know, keep in contact with them, keep in touch with them. And I'm not saying stalk them, but like I say, if you see something that you think they will like, you know, send it to them or pop it in the post to them if you've got their postal address. It's a really personal touch. Then I would always say, just relax, just enjoy it. Don't worry about it too much. Your first few meetings are likely to be a little bit scary. There's no way of getting around that. But once you've done a couple, you'll be fine. You know, just relax, be confident, be yourself. And the final bonus tip is to practice. Like I say, practice talking in front of the mirror. Practice when you're driving, you know, how are you going to respond to answers to this? I do this all of the time, and you will feel silly doing it, and you will get caught at the traffic light yabbering away to yourself while someone's sitting next to you thinking, she's not on the phone. But just do it, because it will make you feel like a trillion times more relaxed, more confident in your answers, and you will blast it. So I hope that helps. Let me know below in the comments if you've got any other questions, if you want any other tips as to how to kind of wow your brides and grooms at your first meeting, and I shall speak to you next week. All right, take care. Bye bye.